Why is the Transalp not available in red? Well, that one's easy, mate. Honda, enjoy your suffering. Okay guys, it's time for a good old Q&A. Time to dive into the comment section and see how everyone's doing. It's been a little while since I did a Q&A, so I love getting the pulse of the community. So let's dive into the first question. Craig Noonan is saying he's seriously trying to decide between a Kawasaki KLR650 and a Royal Enfield Himalayan 411. Initially I thought, those bikes really aren't comparable, but then I went through the spec sheet and I thought about my test ride of each of these bikes, and actually they're pretty damn comparable, it turns out. It's really hard to decide. There's a bee's dick in it, and I'm not talking about a well-hung bee here. So let's talk about the two bikes briefly. It's not going to be a deep dive. I'm going to gloss over it, but I'll try and help you out. So my initial impressions were the KLR650 definitely appears to be the better quality bike. What I mean by that is the fit and finish was just a bit nicer. The KLR is also heavier and it carries its weight up higher. So I would say if you're a newer rider, the Himalayan's going to be easier to get along with because it carries its weight lower, but it also weighs about 20 kilos less than the current KLR650. Wheels and suspension are very evenly matched. They both have 21/17 wheel combos, which is great for off-road. They also have about 200 mils of travel on the suspension and about that for clearance as well. The Himalayan I think might have a little bit more. A big thing I'd also point out as well, the KLR650 now has ABS. The current Gen 3 KLRs cannot be switched off, which I think is a bit of a stupid move. The Himalayan, it does have switchable ABS. Talking about power, neither of these bikes are powerhouses, but I will point out that the KLR feels significantly peppier than the Himalayan. The Himalayan only makes 24 horsepower, but it does make a nice 32 Newton meters of torque, but the KLR is making roughly 40 horsepower and 51.5 Newton meters of torque. And that's where I think the Himalayan is very similar. It's basically, it feels like a more low powered KLR, but if you're wanting the more powerful bike, if you've been riding a little while and you're just looking for a new dual sport / adventure bike, the KLR is probably going to satisfy you more. Whereas the Himalayan I think is going to be the better entry level. If it's your first adventure bike or your first motorcycle, it's going to make a little more sense. It's a little easier to manage, I think. As well as if you're a shorter rider, the Himalayan is going to make sense because it's got a significantly lower seat height. The KLR is about 870 millimeters, whereas the Himalayan is roughly 800 millimeters, so it's a big difference. Now you can get a shorter version of the KLR called the KLR650S, but it's still taller than the standard Himalayan. You're not sacrificing any clearance or suspension travel on the Himalayan. You're still getting just as much as the standard KLR, so it's still going to be fantastic off-road while you can still get your feet on the ground, and that's important if you're a beginner. And it's a bit of a handicap if you go for the KLR650S because it's got less travel and less clearance. Overall though, I would characterize the KLR as a dual sport with adventure bike characteristics. And remember, these things have been built for over 30 years, so they definitely know what they're doing at Kawasaki making this bike by now, so you can be very confident in the reliability. The 411 is more of a little approachable and affordable adventure bike. The Himalayan hasn't been around nearly as long. It's certainly becoming a cult classic. It did have a few niggles when it came out quality control wise, and I will say I rode an early carburetted model and the fit and finish just was nowhere near what the Japanese produce. But I will say that Royal Enfield really have come along in the years since I test rode that bike. Some of the bikes they're pumping out now are amazing. They're both very easy to work on. I think either way here, mate, it's going to be a great decision. You're not going to make a mistake choosing one over the other. I'd get a leg over both and test ride them if you can. Good luck with your decision, mate. Let me know how you go. The next comment is from Michael and he's saying, hey mate, how you doing? Like and subscribe. Cheers mate, thanks for the sub and welcome aboard. What are your thoughts on the new Norden 901 Expedition? I think this is actually the better model to go with over the standard model. Now why do I say that? Well, it's down to the suspension. The Norden 901 Expedition has the suspension of the 890 Adventure R, which is far superior suspension to what's on the standard 901. But I'd also like to say I like the Norden 901 over the KTM 890 Adventure R, just because if I had the choice between the two, I love the look of the Husqvarna, whereas the KTM is just, let's face it, it's butt ugly. And thanks for the sub. The next comment is from Mo and Simba, and this one is just downright depressing. Someone just stole my 2022 300L Rally. Man, that's absolutely crap. You must be gutted. I'm sorry to hear that, mate, particularly with how hard it is to get hold of these bikes. And it really can be absolutely devastating, particularly with how much love and care people put into their motorbikes to personalize them. The bikes really become part of your family. So my heart goes out to you, mate. I hope whoever did that is in the pineapple section of hell, because they damn well deserve it. The next question is from Sanjay, and he's saying, thanks for the informative video. You're welcome, mate. My height is 5'6" and I'm looking for the best lightweight adventure bike, and so far from your video, the 411 fits the bill, but how is the reliability? Thanks in advance. Well, the 411 definitely is a good choice for shorter riders, given that the seat height is a lowly 800 millimeters. I rode a very early carbureted version of the Himalayan, and I thought the fit and finish wasn't quite up to the standard of, say, the Euros and the Japanese. I've also heard some niggling comments about the bolts rusting a little bit and some coming loose. There was reports of the frames cracking in earlier models, but Royal Enfield did address that. And recently there was a small recall on some Royal Enfields for corrosions in the brakes if you rode in a country where they use salt on the roads. But those are little niggles. There isn't any real massive problems with the 411 motor. It's quite a simple motor to work on, which is very important. I think that almost supersedes any niggles, because anything that goes wrong with these bikes you can basically fix with a lackey band, cable ties and a hammer. They're that dead simple to work on, so that's a massive plus to them. Now, I also will point out that Royal Enfield have really been making leaps and bounds in their quality recently. I think since the launch of their 650s, they've really leveled up in their production quality. Now, I haven't recently ridden the 411, but I have heard that the 411 has significantly improved in its quality and the way it's been produced and its fit and finish. If you're getting a second-hand one, maybe try and get as later model as you can. I'd also suggest maybe checking out the scram version of it, the scrambled version of the Himalayan 411, as it's even lower in seat height, but it really doesn't sacrifice much in off-road performance. It has a 19-inch wheel instead of a 21 and slightly less travel, but it's still basically the same bike and would have almost as much off-road capability. So if seat height is super important, I'd test ride both and see how you feel. The scram is also lighter as well, so quite a few advantages there, so some food for thought. Also, guys, if you own a Himalayan 411, please put down in the comment section your experience and help out Sanjay. That would be magnificent. It'd also really help me out as well, as I get to hear back from owners and see how you are finding the bike. And thanks for your question, mate, and good luck on the hunt. And the last question is one I've generally been getting on the channel, is how is parenthood going with my daughter being born in February? And I'll be honest with you, it's been a little rough. We're not getting much sleep around here. This is why you haven't seen me riding off-road. Thanks for your well wishes and thanks for your patience as well, because you probably noticed that some weeks I just haven't been able to get a video out because I've just not been getting enough sleep to make any sense behind the camera. So thanks for your patience there as well. So that wraps up this Q&A. Thanks for sticking with me to the end, and thanks for the ongoing support as we just passed 31,000 subscribers, which is absolutely staggering. So thanks for all your support. This is an absolutely fantastic off-road community. Double thumbs up to all you guys that contribute out there. And as always, guys, don't forget to stay shiny side up, and I'll see you in the next one. Catch you later.